Greetings, greetings, greetings. Today is August 4th, 2019. And we just want to first lift up our Abba, Yahuwah, the creator of creation. And we want to lift up the name above every name, Yahuwshuwa Ha'Mashiyach. The one who said that when he be lifted up, he'll draw all men unto him. And so we lift up those names on this day because truly they are the establishment of the kingdom that dwells on the inside of you. And so, and who are you? And so today the lesson is entitled, Who Are His People? And so we're just going to dig right in. Turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 11. It reads, Thus Solomon finished the house of Yahuwah and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of Yahuwah and his own house, he prosperously effected. He done it with a mighty work. He prosperously effected the building and the establishment of Yahuwah's house and of his own house. Okay, and so it reads in verse 13, in verse 12, and Yahuwah appeared to Solomon by night and said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and have chosen this place to myself for an house of sacrifice. He say in verse 13, if I shut up heaven and if there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people. He say, understand, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Okay, and so what I want to establish on this day is, like I say, who are his people? And so there are some within the house of Jacob who will say that his people are only of the children of Jacob, and the rest of the nations are therefore discounted by way of them being Gentile nations. And so what I want to make this, I want to create distance and create understanding and wisdom concerning the scriptures on these matters, okay? Because truly, his house is a house of all nations. His name is a name that can be so called upon all who have chosen to walk this Quadash life. And so, but let's first identify his children. Let's first identify Jacob. All right. And so, I want to read this excerpt, and if you track with me on social media through various platforms, I'm sure you've already read or heard of this, but just bear with me here. This is a first-hand account of who the Jews are, the Yahudim, who they are, the children of Jacob, by a Frenchman by the name of Francois Maximilien Mission. He was born circa 1650, which just really means that his birth date is uncertain, but that he died in 1722. And so the French writer and traveler, Francois Mission, wrote a book called A New Voyage to Italy that was published out of London in 1714. Volume 2, page 139. It reads, "'Tis also a vulgar error," he wrote, "that the Jews are all black, for this is only true of the Portuguese Jews, who marrying always among one another beget children like themselves, and consequently the swarthiness of their complexion is entailed upon their whole race, even the northern regions." He says the swarthiness, the blackness, of their complexion is entailed upon their whole race. And so one of the things that I want to bring out here is prior to, I say, around 1900, there was a clear-cut understanding as to who the Yahudim were, who the so-called Jews were. Now, there's always been room for the stranger. There's always been the stranger who came into the land. But in terms of the children of Jacob, there was no ambiguity. There was no disputing who the Jews were, who the Yahudim were, who the children of Judah were, because it was very clear. And this is only one example, but there were many examples throughout the old text from various outside sources, I'll say, regarding who the Jews were. And so like I said, what I want to say here is that the Jews were a Negro people that was clearly understood. Negro is the Portuguese and the Spanish word for black. These were a Negro. These were a black people. These were these Jews of the tribe of Judah were a black people who lived in Spain, and so and in Portugal. And so what I always like to say is that all Hebrew people are melanated, but not all melanated people are Hebrew, okay? And we know this because when we look at the account of Ham, whose name means hot, and his son Cush, one of his sons whose name was Cush, whose name means black, right? And so Ham had 4 sons, Mitzrayim, who became Egypt, Phut, who became the Phoenicians, Canaan, who dwelt in the land that was given to Phut, who also intertwined himself with the Phoenicians. And then you also had Canaan, Phut, Mitzrayim, and Cush. And so these were the 4 sons. These were all Negro. These were all black children of Ham. Okay? And these were the people that inhabited the land of Africa before the children of Yashrael got there. And so, and what you'll hear me doing periodically is kind of waffling back and forth between Jacob and Yashrael, but this is done because this is exactly what happens in the scriptures. But what we are going to do here is make that distinction between Jacob and Yashrael. Okay, and so let's turn to Genesis 32, because what we need to understand is just because you were born into Jacob, that don't make you Yashrael. I'm gonna say that one again. Just because you were born into Jacob, that don't make you Yashrael. Yashrael was a name given to Jacob after a contention, after a wrestling. Let's turn to, like I say, 32, and we're going to start at verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestling a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou barak me, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Yashrael. For as a prince hast thou power with all and with men, and hast prevailed. And so what we're looking at here is that we are looking at the flesh, Jacob, wrestling with the Malach of Yahuwah, wrestling with Yah. In fact, and we're going to see that later, wrestling with Yah until something happened, until that baraka happened. Because in order for a one, even of the flesh, in order for a one to be counted into Yashrael, what needs to happen is there must be a wrestling with Yah. There must be a wrestling with the Malach of Yahuwah, even Yahuwshua. You have to then grab hold of him in order to be counted in Yashrael. And there ain't no shortcut in that. As Ma'ak will say, ain't no shortcuts. And so let's go to Matthew 15. Turn to Matthew 15. Matthew 15, and we're going to start at verse 21. Because I want to bring out how there are those who think because they are born into Jacob that they're gonna make it in. Just because you're born into Jacob don't qualify you to be accounted in Yashrael. And we see that in the book of Revelations. When Dan, the tribe of Dan, was born into Jacob, but he wasn't accounted in Yashrael. You can check that in Revelation 7, I believe. Dan, the tribe of Dan, was born into Jacob, but he wasn't accounted in Yashrael, okay? And so, verse 21, then Yahuwshua went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O master, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. And so what I want to bring out right here is that this woman of Canaan, this woman of Canaan, she's a Gentile, flat out. Okay? Gentile is merely one who is not of the tribes of Jacob. Gentile is one who is not of the tribes of Yashrael, okay? And so that's what a Gentile is. And so we have this woman of Canaan, this woman of Canaan, being a Gentile, has come now to the master. And so it reads in verse 20, where we at? 23. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yashrael. Okay? He didn't send her away. Notice how he did not send her away. But he answered his disciples and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yashrael. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Master, help me. Right? She had that cry that when you have that cry out unto the master, it invokes the mercy of Yahuwah. We saw this in times past with Elijah and the captains of 50s. It was 3 captains of 50s back in 1 Kings. And we saw this in that account where it was that third captain of 50 who had that cry out that had that cry in his ruach that said, wait, man of Elohim, right? He came humbly, even as this woman here. When you humble yourself, he said that he will forgive you and heal your land. Watch what happens as she humbled herself. It say, but he answered. It say, but he answered. What's going on, Ben? It say, but he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs. And she said, truth, master, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from the master's table. Then he say, then Yahuwshua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Probably around 2. And he say, I'm gonna read that again to recap. And he And Yahuwshua answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee, even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. Her salvation came from her faith in Yahuwshua, from that cry, that humility, and it was done unto her as her faith allowed. Because even as a Gentile individual, your faith in Yahuwshua will accompanied by your action in that faith will barak you unto salvation. And so what I want to say here is there is no difference between Jacob and the nations in this regard, because we must all put in work. Let's turn to Romans 10. We must all put in work. Verse 11. 10 verse 11. For the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. This woman who believed on the master, she was not ashamed. Verse 12, for there is no difference between the Yahudim, the Jew, and the Greek. And we can just translate this to be Gentile here. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. For the same master over all is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever call upon the name of the master shall be saved. Whether you are Jew or Gentile, whether you are Yahudim or Grecian, whether you are Yahudim or of a person of Canaan or of a person of Ham, whether you are of Japheth, whether you are of Canaan, whether you are of Shem, it does not matter. All who call upon the name of the master shall be saved. Period. You don't have to turn here, but real quick, I'm gonna just read Matthew 24, verse 13, because you'll have, and I want to really just distance and again create distance from that false ideology, that false doctrine that will tell you that once saved, always saved, and then you'll have these others who will bring you into their places, into their houses, into their buildings, and will tell you to read, Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10, and then pop up, you saved. Stop the nonsense, stop the foolery. Because right quick, in the red letters, the master say, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. There is an endurance that must happen. There is a wrestling in this flesh that must happen. And so I believe that Yahuwah is going to barak a word to come from me entitled those who endure. And we're going to just cover that false doctrine, once saved, always saved, in quite a many different ways. But until then, and right now, let's just turn to Psalm 135. Let's turn to Psalm 135, because I want to make sure that we understand the distinction that's happening in the scriptures. 135, verse 4. It says, for Yah hath chosen Jacob unto himself, and Yashrael for his peculiar treasure. And when you look up under the English, under that word, the Lord, right there, what you'll see is the Hebrew Strong's number 3050, which is Yah. It is the same Malach that wrestled. Yah is this same Malach that wrestled with Jacob. It is the same Malach that chose Jacob and wrestled with him, and that Jacob would not let Yah go. And I'm equating the two now. Would not let the Malach of Yahuwah, the Malach of Allah, the Malach of all, go until he baraked him. because Yah has chosen Jacob unto himself, and Yashreal for his peculiar treasure. Hold on to that word peculiar. All right. So now let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let's jump over to Deuteronomy 32. Halal Yahuwah. All right. And so we're going to start at verse 7. Say, remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee, when the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, or rather Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Yashreal. For Yahuwah's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. When the Most High did exactly what he said he did, he separated the sons of Adam. Okay, when he set bounds of the people, he did this according to the children of Yashreal. He did this according to his people that he would call out of the nations unto himself. And he did this through Jacob. He called Jacob the lot of his inheritance in order to create a people that was not a people, in order to sew these two together. He sewed a people that were not a people unto a people of his own choosing together. And we'll read that in times momentarily. Let's jump to verse 21. Understanding, they, starting here, they have moved me to jealousy that which is not Al, or rather Elohim. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. This foolish nation being spoken of are the Gentile nations that were outside of the children of Jacob. Let's turn to Romans 11. Let's establish that thing. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. And what we're going to do today, as with all teachings and lessons coming from this channel, we're going to establish line upon line and precept upon precept. So verse 11 out of chapter 11 in the book of Romans. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Elohim forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Okay, and it is, as I said that it's through Jacob that the salvation of the nations shall come, through the provoking of, and by the nations are then in turn provoking Jacob to jealousy, to return him back to our Elohim, and in so doing, bringing all the nations into the inheritance that was at a time once for Jacob. But the master orchestrator, even the Most High, has had this plan even from the beginning. Even from the beginning, when he told that woman that by her seed, he shall tread upon the serpent's head, and he shall bruise his heel. And so let's stay in Romans and backtrack up to back to chapter 9. And let's see, chapter 9, we're going to start at verse 6. Not as though the word of Elohim hath taken none effect. Watch this. For they are not all Yashrael, which are of Yashrael. And you can actually substitute, for they are not all Yashrael, they are not all Israel, which are of Jacob. Okay? And let's let Shaul kind of break that down right here. Verse 8. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, Jacob, these are not the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are counted for his seed. Just because you Jacob, that does not make you Yashrael. There is like I say, a wrestling with the Malach of Yah. There is an acceptance on the master Yahuwshuwa that will bring you into the inheritance of Yashrael. All right, skip to verse 18. It reads, therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. So understand, he's going to have mercy on whom he have mercy, the Gentiles, and whom he hardeneth, he's going to harden, no matter who you are. Even in Shem, even in the Abri people, he's going to harden who he hardened. He's going to have mercy upon whom he have mercy. Because there is neither Jew nor Greek in Yashrael. All right, so let's stay here and check out verses 24. Gonna start at verse 24. Even us whom he hath called, not of the Yahudim only, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. Because understand, many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. Verse 25, as he saith unto in Oshay or Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living Elohim. Now let's actually go to that. Let's actually go to Hosea, chapter 1, because this is where Apostle Shaul was referencing out of. But there's some meat there that, as Aqua say, there's some meat on the bone there that I want to bring out, because I don't want us to miss this point. I don't want us to be ignorant of the mysteries of the assembly of Yahuwshuwa. Starting at verse 9. Then said Elohim, call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. Yet the number of the children of Yashrael shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. It shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living Elohim. Then shall the children of Yehuda and the children of Yashrael be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Yatzreal. Check this out. I really don't want us to miss this part. It say, then shall the children of Yehuda. Remember what I read in the beginning of this lesson here, when I spoke of the children of the Yahudim, the children of Judah. Understand that the vast majority of slaves that were brought here to the Americas were children. When you go back and look in the history and in the when you go back and look in the information that can be known regarding the so-called slaves that were brought to America, a lot of them were 18 and under, 30 and under. These were not mostly adults that were brought into this land. When the excuse me, and I'm backtracking because I want to take a step back for a moment, and it really establish right now who the children of the Yahudim are here in these Americas. When it said then shall the children of Yahudah and the children of Yashrael be gathered. Check it out. So, like I say, a lot of the people that were exiled out of Spain went into Portugal. And here, let's pause there. Understand that in 1478 AD, the Spanish Inquisition was established by the Christians, the Christian monarchs, or Catholic monarchs, same thing. Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. Okay, now this was this was on account of the Pope. Howsoever, the Inquisition, which is a long period of trial, a long period of inquiring, it was basically a time of persecution. Okay, it was basically a time of persecution and finding out who were the Jews. Not necessarily finding out who were the Jews, but they were finding out who the Yahudim were, because they knew that these people were a black people. They knew who they were, but what they were doing was separating them who were practicing Judaism and the Christians amongst themselves. And so they called this time period the Inquisition. And so in 1492 rather, the Alhambra decree, or what was known as the Edict of Expulsion, took place, where the Yahudim that were practicing Judaism were expelled out of Spain, and you had some of the Yahudim who would go off into various parts of Africa. They would go into they would go east, they would go north, they would go into all other land, they would go into many other lands, but a large majority of them, or a lot of them rather, would go into Portugal. Okay, a lot of them, there are numbers that conflict between 40,000 and 100,000 that would go into Portugal, because understand that for an entire century prior to this expulsion edict, prior to the Inquisition period of 1478, 100 years where there were Yahudah establishing himself in Spain. And so these were the children the children of Jacob had very well established themselves and become engineers and become teachers and various peoples in well-established communities in Spain. So in 1478, like I say, the Inquisition started. By 1492, the expulsion edict happened, and a lot of them went into Portugal. And in 1526, May 23rd, 1536, the Portuguese Inquisition began, and it was during this time, from about 1536 into the early 1800s, that the children of Jacob, in particular the tribe of Yahudah, the Yahudim, were taken out and fled out of Portugal and were also brought out of Portugal by way of ships. Let's pause. Turn to Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And we hold your finger in Hosea, but let's turn right quick to Deuteronomy 28. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into the land of Egypt. Here is a prophetic reference to the land of bondage, okay? And Yahuwah shall bring thee into the land of Egypt, again with ships, because it don't take no ships from Israel into Egypt, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Okay? This is the heritage. This was the promise of the children of Jacob. Okay? So once the children of Jacob, once the Yahudim, the tribe of Judah, were brought in by ships into the west coast of Africa by way of South Guinea, also into the island of Saint Thome or Saint Thomas. They were then, by way of the transatlantic slave trade, brought also by ships into the land of bondage here, into in large part into South America, and also in large part into North America. And I want to create distance also and understanding and wisdom concerning, and you can turn back to Hosea chapter 1. And I want to create understanding and establish wisdom in 15, don't quote me, but I believe in 1526 is when there was a Spanish, one of the Spaniards brought the first Negroes, again, brought the first blacks, brought the first slaves into, and we know that these blacks, we know that these Negroes were the Yahudim. Not all. I want to state very clearly that not all the black people brought to the Americas were of the tribe of the Yahudim. But briefly understand that when the Portuguese brought the Jews into the South Guinea and into the island of the Saint Thomas, that these were the ones that also were taken and brought into the Americas. And so, like I say, in 1526, when a Spaniard brought the first Negroes into the Americas by way of South Carolina, it was also there. Consequently, it was also there that the first slave revolt happened. But it was in 1619 that the Anglo-Saxon slave trade had begun, and those Negroes, those children of the Yahudim, were brought into the Americas. But 1526 is when the first Negroes that were a part of the slave trade, because it was around that time that the Spanish king Charles V had made the selling of the Negroes legal. All right, so let's come back to Hosea 1. Let's come back to Hosea 1. It says, then the children of Yahudah, the children of Judah, because like I say, in large part, it was the children that were taken from Portugal and brought into South Guinea. It was in large part the children who were sold into slavery and found themselves in the Americas. And the children of Yashrael be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, Yahuwshuwa, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Yatzreal. Okay, now this term in English we're reading Jezreel, when in the Hebrew it means all Elohim souls, or all souls. Because what's happened here is that this is the sowing of the Yahudim, of the Jew, and this is the sowing of the nations together into one new man, into this is the sowing of the Jew and the Gentile into Yahuwshuwa, into the body of the Mashiach. Okay, so now having that established, let's turn to 1 Kings 5. Turn to 1 Kings 5. And so what I also want us to understand, just in brief, is that there are them who call themselves Jews who are not Jews, but even are the synagogue of Satan. And it is these them Jews who have established themselves in 1948 as the nation state of Israel. And while, like I say, all who call upon the name of Yahuwshuwa shall be saved, we need to very clearly understand that the Ashkenazi, the Khazarians, and the Ashkenazi Jews, so-called, are not inherently Israel, and they're certainly not Jacob. 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 5. And behold, I purpose to build a house unto the name of Yahuwah my Elohim, as Yahuwah spake unto David my father, saying, thy son, whom I will set upon the throne in thy room, he shall build an house unto my name. What I want to establish here, rather what needs to be established here, is his house, his temple is built unto his name. Yashrael is no more a nation state, and has not been since Israel was rent in two. It has long since not been a nation state. And the temple of Yahuwah is not and does not, Yahuwah no longer dwells in the temples made by hand. Yahuwah dwells in his, but Yahuwah does dwell in his temple, okay? His temple was destroyed, was sacked in 70 AD. So if I say to you, Yahuwah dwells in his temple, and we know by history, through history, that the temple of Yahuwah was sacked by the Romans in 70 AD, that it was destroyed in 70 AD, what do I mean? On our way to 1 Corinthians chapter 3, we need to understand that those who accept the name of Yahuwah, that those who accept the name of Yahuwshuwa and walk in his in the way, you are the temple of Yahuwah. You are the temple of Elohim. Like I say, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. Know ye not? You know what? Yeah, okay, we'll start at verse 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of Elohim, that the Ruach of Elohim dwelleth in you. You see, when you walk in the way, you become a place where the Ruach of Elohim can then indwell, and thereby making you the temple of Elohim. Verse 17, if any man defile the temple of Elohim, him shall Elohim destroy. For the temple of Elohim is Quadash, which temple ye are. In these days, you'll notice judgment coming speedily. In these days, you'll notice how even the birth pangs that are in the land that are happening, that are an insignia for the times of the end. You have grasshoppers in Las Vegas. You have locusts in Saudi Arabia. You have rivers of waters turning red. You have throughout the earth, throughout the plain. You have hailstorms reaching 3 to 5 feet in Mexico. Things that are just unheard of. You have various earthquakes in diverse places. 6.4 followed right behind by a 7.1 over in California. These are the birth pangs of the signs of the times that signifying that the times of the Gentiles are coming to an end when the children of Jacob and the children of Yashrael are going to be joined in one in the body of the Mashiach, even Yahuwshuwa. For truly, these are the signs of the times of the end, and it's pivotal to know who are his people. Because even if you are hearing this and have yet remained up until this point and believe not, what needs to be understood is there was always, like I say, room, and in the scriptures, room for the stranger. And so find you one who has the name of Yahuwah. Find you one who has the name of Yahuwshua and attach yourself to them and learn of them. Because how can the people hear, at least you know, how can the people hear at least they have a preacher? Okay? And it is the children of Yashrael who are to teach the nations of Yahuwah, of Yahuwshua. Attach yourself to one who knows the creator of creation, because he will not leave his people forsaken. Neither have I seen the righteous forsaken or their seed begging bread. And who are the righteous? But them who have faith and believe and who have put action and work in the name of Yahuwah and Yahuwshua. And so let's turn right quick to John 14, because you'll have them who say, you know, that, you know, they have the ruach of Elohim, or in a lot of different peoples, they'll call it the Holy Ghost. But let's establish right now the criteria for receiving the ruach that is sent from the Father. John 14, verse 26. You know what? Let's go to verse 17 right quick. Verse 17, John 14, 17. Even the ruach of truth, whom the world cannot receive, whom the Gentile nations cannot receive. And Gentile, I don't mean them who are not of the tribes of Jacob. I mean to say here, them who are not, who have not received the truth, even the truth that is in Yahuwshua, even the truth that is in the name of Yahuwshua only. Even the ruach of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth in you and shall be in you. I remember when I first seen the name of Yahuwshua, so I come up a different kind of way. I come up through what I call the shape of creation, through understanding that this earth is not a spinning space earth rock hurling through the galaxy, but that this earth is, as the scriptures tell us that it is, stationary, immovable, fixed, that it is the footstool of Yahuwah. And so that in Isaiah 40:22, that he sits above what Ezekiel 1 talks about, the firmament, that he sits above the circle of the earth, and that he looks down and upon us as grasshoppers, that he sits above us looking down upon us. That when I was in these different forums via social media, and I come up on this name Yahuwshuwa, it was like a light bulb switch, and the light cut on. I had seen Yeshua, I had seen even Yahuwah, the or Yahusha, Yahuwah, right? I had seen these various false names, but when I had seen Yahuwshuwa with this name with all them their W's, I was done. I was like, that's the name. And then I just had to go and search that thing out. And now I am sent before you to proclaim the Bashura, the good news, and bring before you the understanding of who are his people. And so, verse 26, but the Comforter, which is the Quadash Ruach, whom the Father will send, just Salah right here, which is to pause and calmly think of that. Peep. Whom the Father will send in my name. He not sent in the name of Jesus. That was not the Son's name. He's not sent in the name of Yeshua. That is not the Son's name. He is not sent in the name of any other name. There is one name above all other names. There is one name that Apostle Peter then already established, that in no other name under heaven is there given among men whereby men must be saved. There is one name who the Father sent the Quadash Ruach in, and it say, in red letters, it reads, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said unto you. Let's go ahead and build on this. On this, turn to 1 Peter. Turn to 1 Peter, chapter 2. Almost done. You know, it's a thing to take note. Like right now, we at about 52 minutes. It's a thing to take note. Now, mind you, you might be busy, you might have things to do. So if you need to pause and come back, that's understandable. Do that. But it's a thing to take note when, even in the joining of those two segments, if you can, in this popcorn generation, set yourself to learning, set yourself to understanding, set yourself to wisdom and knowledge. That is a thing of notary, because like I say, in this popcorn generation, people want it, they want it yesterday, they want it right now. But when you can take time, and sometimes it takes practice, but when you can take time out and sit before the Father and learn of his ways, you on the right track. So first Kapha chapter 2, 1 Peter chapter 2, we're gonna read at verse 5. Excuse me. Ye also, as living stones, are built up a spiritual house and Quadash priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim acceptable to Yahuwah by Yahuwshuwa Ha'Mashiyach. Because what I want to pause, and we're going to continue just for a couple verses here, but what I want to pause and establish, that the Son done already told us in Revelations that we are a kingdom we are a body of kings and priests. What Kapha is bringing here is that we are a royal priesthood, okay? To offer up spiritual sacrifices. Because even from the times of old, the temple of Yahuwah required sacrifice. This has not changed. But like I say, the temple of Yahuwah, that was the physical temple, the thing that we are not to try and reestablish, the thing that we are not to try and rebuild with the Khazarians and the Ashkenazi are built or are vehemently attempting to build and have been wanting to build for some time now, and trust in times future, which you'll see the Dome of the Rock, which currently sits where on the Temple Mount, which you will see in times future, I believe will not be. And what very well could happen, and this is not, thus saith Yahuwah, this is me, but what very well could happen, as I've been reading and things like that, is something I believe will happen where this temple will, this third temple in the physical manifestation will be either constructed, attempt to be constructed, but something is yet to happen. Something is yet to transpire. Now, getting back into this lesson, verse 6, wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. But unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient whereunto also they were appointed. Because understand, there were some of the children of Jacob were appointed to bring this word, even the word that I now bring, the name of Yahuwshua, the name of Yahuwah. The children of Jacob were appointed to bring this word to the nations. But the name of Yahuwshua became a stumbling block for them who believe not. It became a stumbling block and a rock of offense to them who believe not. But unto them who have received this word, but to them which believe, it is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone, the chief cornerstone, which the builders disallowed, they cannot receive these things. Seeing, they have made themselves blind. Hearing, they have made themselves deaf, that they should repent and receive the salvation of Yahuwshua. Verse 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a Quadash nation, a peculiar people. There's that word peculiar again. Okay? There's that word peculiar. That ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. That have called you out of darkness, that have called you from not being a people into his marvelous light, into being a people, from being not a people into being a people, from those who are even of the tribe of Yehuda, the children of Yehuda, who have rejected the chief cornerstone, even them, even of them who would be so called out of the children of Yashrael, even of the children of the nations, a time who were to be called out of them, Yahuwshua has brought them into himself, into his marvelous light, which in times past were not a people, but are now the people of Elohim, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Because he said that he will have mercy upon whom he will have mercy. It is not for these various camps to misinterpret the scriptures and establish a doctrine that does not agree with that in which the apostles have already laid. Because understand, you have in these camps them who will attempt to bring the yoke of bondage back into the people, back into the understand, those of we people that are coming into this revelation of the knowledge of the truth, that we are a Hebrew people, that we are the tribe of Yehuda that was exiled out of Spain, that was exiled out of Portugal, that were brought by ships into the west coast of Africa, that were brought by ships into the Americas, that we are the so-called Negro people, that we are indeed the children of Yehuda. They will say to you that, like, for example, I remember I'm in Minneapolis now, and I was downtown, and often you'll see the purple and gold camps, or the red and white, or the black and gold, whomsoever. The doctrine slightly different, but you'll hear of them in the purple and gold in particular, who will say that that the nations are all cast away, that that Yahuwshua, he say that he is only sent to the lost tribes of Yashrael. And like I say, what I want to bring out here is exactly who are the tribes of Yashrael, and so indeed who are his people. And when I was downtown, and the man said to me, "Don't you know you a Hebrew?" At that time I was like, if you say so. And so understand, my sheep know my voice, and another's they will not follow. Okay? When you have spent time with the truth, you may not know what the lie you are being told is, but what you do know is the truth when you hear it. You may not know what the lie is, but you know it ain't the truth. Okay? And so when he said to me that you Hebrew, that rang true in my ruach, and I couldn't shake it off. So I say, if you say so, because I couldn't immediately object to that thing which I knew in my ruach to be true. So I went and searched it out. And so again, I sit before you here today, teaching the Bashura, teaching the good news. And so, but you'll have them also the same, who will tell you that if you're not Jacob, you're not Yashrael. And that thing does not equate with the scriptures. Okay? And so let's go back into the old covenant. Let's go back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 12. We almost done. We're going to start at verse 5. It reads, "But unto the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. Verse 6. And thither ye shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithes and your heave offerings of your hand and your vows and your free will offerings and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. 7. And there ye shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hand unto, ye and your household, ye and your households, wherein Yahuwah thy Elohim hath baraked thee, hath blessed thee. So what we're looking at here is, like I say previous, there has always been a requirement to bring the sacrifices unto the temple of Yahuwah. There's always been a requirement to bring the sacrifices. There's always been, ain't nothing changed. But let's understand who the temple are, what the temple is. You are the temple of the living Elohim. So then that begs the question, what are the sacrifices? Let's turn to Romans 12. Let's turn to Romans 12. You'll have them that say in them camps that you need to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Law, statutes, and commandments. Law, statutes, and commandments. Understand, since the temple has been destroyed, none of nobody is even able to do that in which, if you did not do, you were to be destroyed. If you did not provide them sacrifice, if you did not come up to to Jerusalem 3 times a year, and drop off them sacrifices, you were to be destroyed, so called in the ordinances and the statutes. That's not happening. And then you'll have some that say, well, in the land of your captivity, you are to do that in which you can do. But let's understand one thing here. Let's understand that one, you are the temple of the living Elohim. Your chapter 12, verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, Quadash, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. You are to present yourself unto Elohim. This is your reasonable service. This is the fulfillment of the perpetual sacrifice that needs to be brought into the temple of Elohim. You yourself are the reasonable sacrifice to be offered up into Elohim. Verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. Okay? Because what I really want to establish now is his presence is manifested through his name. Okay? I'll say it again. His presence is manifested through his name. Similarly, in a room filled with people talking loud, you'll hear your name. Huh? Right? Understand, the energy that is created, our words have power, right? The same force that dwells on the inside of us, the ruach, the breath that established life, that breath, that ruach that established life dwells on the inside of us. Okay? That same creative force that said, let there be light, is the same creative force that dwells on the inside of you. So when you speak out a person's name, you're more than just calling their name. You are speaking their character. You are speaking and you are bringing about the manifestation of the personage in whom you're speaking concerning, okay? So his presence is manifested through his name. Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst. Watch. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I say, his presence is manifested through his name, right? And then he follows up with, there I am in the midst. Peep. He dwells in the manifestation of his name, okay? He says, there I am in the midst. Elohim dwells in the manifestation of his name. You can't call upon any name and expect the manifestation of his name. You can't call upon Jesus and expect for him to appear, because he done already told you wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name. And logically, real quick, logically, if we know that the letter J was created in 1524 by a man named Gian Giorgio Trezino, like I say, in 1524, we know that this name Jesus was not his name. Could not have been his name. It wasn't even, the name Jesus does not even appear in the late 1611 version of the scriptures, the KJV. It wasn't until later on that Jesus first appeared. So if they wasn't calling on the name Jesus as the name of salvation before 1611, what makes you think you can call on that name now? What makes you think that if he say, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, his name, that when you calling on any other name, he gonna appear? He said, there I am in the midst. In the midst of what? Them, the 2 or 3 who have called upon his name. Let's not get it twisted. You don't have to turn there, but I'm just turning real quick to Acts 17. And if you do turn, hold your place. Acts 17 verse 30. And the times of Acts 17:30, and the times of this ignorance Elohim winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. If you didn't know, now you know. And once you are met with the burden of the proof of the truth, there is no more remission of sin. There is no more, once you have come into the knowledge of the things of Yahuwshuwa, once you've come into the truth of the name of Yahuwshuwa, there is therefore no more remission of sin. There is no more remission for the ignorance that you were set in before, but now has Elohim called all men to repent. And so choose ye this day whom ye will serve. But as for me and my house, we shall serve Yahuwah. And so let's go ahead and put the capstone on this thing. Turn to Malachi 3. Let's go ahead and put the capstone on this thing. Malachi 3. Because we're going to go ahead and answer this question. Who are his people? Malachi 3. Verses, start at verse 16. Starting at verse 16. Then they that feared Yahuwah spake often one to another, and Yahuwah hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before them, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahuwah, and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Yahuwah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth Elohim and him that serveth him not. Who are his people? His people are them who call upon the name of Yahuwah. His people are them who call upon the name of Yahuwshuwa, that feared and spake often one to another. Because it was then, when they called upon his name, that he heard them, that he hearkened unto them, that he healed their land, that he brought salvation to them, that he healed them, that he made them perfect and whole. His people, very simply, are them who dwell in his presence, who dwell in his name. And so, understand, in order to be a follower of the way, you have to be a warrior of the Ruach. You have to live a wise life according to these scriptures. And I'm not speaking of just Jacob. I'm not speaking of just the children of the Yahudim here in the Americas, but of all Jacob and all of Yashreal, all of the Quadash Gentiles that make up the entire house of Yashreal, that have established one head, even Yatzreal, where Yahuwah Elohim sews the two together, that one head, even Yahuwshuwa Ha'Mashiyach. And so, with these words, let heaven and earth be a witness. For wherever two or three are, wherever in the mouth of two or three witnesses, let every word be established. So whether you hear or forbear, whether you choose to accept or reject these words, heaven and earth stands as a witness that these words are spoken in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and given to all the nations. For whomsoever shall call upon the name of Yahuwshuwa Ha'Mashiyach shall be saved, even those who endure to the end. Aman and Salah.